to our series of readings, and I have to begin by pointing out that our series of readings is sponsored by the Canada Council, by the London Arts Council, and our own college, Fanshawe College. And again, we're most grateful for the generous support. My name is Roy Geiger. I'm from Language and Liberal Studies, and we have this series of readings. It's been going on for some 40 years. We have two more readings this year, both from professors here at our college. In February, Meg Howard is going to read with guests, and Laurie Graham in March. We're looking forward to both of these readings. Today, James Arthur is with us. And James is originally from Toronto. He trained here in Canada and in the U.S. He's had some prestigious fellowships at the U.S. and teaches at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, published widely, I have to say. I mean, look at his book at the back, like it's a whole page in small type of all these great places. Published widely, including in the New Yorker, Brick Magazine, Best Canadian Poetry in English. And his poems, as my wife pointed out, are clean, deft, surprising. And his book, here, Charms Against Lightning, follows interesting thematic arcs. Like a narrative, I think, from a sort of nihilism and despair, a lot of drinking, to an effort to engage with life. But I was really taken when I got the book by the title, Charms Against Lightning. I mean, what charms are there that are going to stop the worst stuff from happening? And it made me ask, well, what are the things that we try to do every day to make the worst not happen to us? And you think about the stuff that people do, like goalies tapping the goalposts in a certain order, baseball players, apparently some sleep with their bats, keeping their favorite bats with them, and teachers, we have favorite pencils that we use for marking. I'm not even going to talk about the playoff beard or obsessively running back into the house just to be sure that the coffee pot that you turned off is indeed off. But my question is really, what do these things actually mean to us and do for us? What do they stand for? Are they practical steps, or are they metaphors that we cling to? And I would guess that many of us have songs, parts of songs, lines from songs, or poems that we repeatedly come back to. Things that just buck us up when we need something, make us feel better. And I really think poems can do this, and you could call those charms. I mean, the charms against lightning, our odds of getting hit by lightning apparently are about the same as our odds of winning the lottery. But we know that happens, apparently. Somebody won 30-some million in Toronto just recently. Whatever we do, lightning does strike someplace. And in the story arc in James's book here, Charms Against Lightning, the speaker at the end, or near the end, expresses something like relief. Takes a chance, doesn't get hit by lightning. He avoids the very worst. So, with that, I'm really looking forward to hearing from James today and his clean, deft accounting of charms. So please welcome James Arthur.
Okay, so I have this portable microphone clipped on, and I don't have very much experience with these. So can everyone hear me okay? In the back, are you able to hear me? Okay, great. Well, if I fade out at any point, please wave your arm or something like that, so I know. I'm going to begin with the title poem in the book, Charms Against Lightning. And as Roy mentioned, a lightning strike really is the last thing that one would need to protect oneself against. So I see this poem as being a poem about fear, about being afraid of absolutely everything. Charms against lightning. Against meningitis and poisoned milk, flash floods and heart wreck. Against daydreams, against losing your fingers, drinking detergent, earthquakes, baldness, divorce. Against losing your fingers, drinking detergent, earthquakes, baldness, divorce. Against falling in love with a child. Against lupus and lawsuits, lying stranded between nations, the burring of trains that never arrive. Against songlessness, your mother's depression, the death of the cedars, Siberian crane. Against these talismans against lightning. The shutters swing and clack their yellow teeth. The deep sky welters and the windows quiver. Many of the poems in Charms Against Lightning, as I see it, chart a journey that from being a shadow to being a human being. And this is one of the first poems in the book, and it's about a shadow who has no understanding that he is a shadow rather than a person. It's called Ghost Life. November. My shadow steps outside, a knit scarf double wrapped around his throat. He's wearing his feel-good canvas coat, a hand-me-down with frayed cuffs and an ink splotch where a pen burst in a side pocket years ago on a colder day. A Safeway bag blows willy-nilly across a puddle full of bricks, and treetops are raucous clown wigs and daubs of oil paint. My shadow feels my company, my stepping as he steps, feels, although he knows it can't be true, that the fall and all its wreckage were invented just for him. Nameless as a water drop, he walks sideways up a wall and is taller with every step and thinner than a flame. One of the things that journey away from shadow represents, to my mind, is a struggle against addiction and alcoholism. It stands for other things too, but that's one of the themes of the book, as Roy mentioned. This next poem contains what I think of as two blackouts, and they're represented on the page just as long lines, long empty lines, but I'm going to represent them in this reading with silences, so you'll hear two silences that are blackouts. This poem is called Drinking Song. She and her hat came over. She crossed her legs in the sun. Her sheer hands and the gloves they wear. She came over smelling of wine. Nothing of hers being yours to accept or decline. She said, and a ship groaned in the boatyards to the west, heard by a backhoe, its jaw to the ground, and it couldn't dig its own grave. She was all switchgrass and began to sway, and she said, and on came the pollen engine, the injury machine, talking double time between every tick, nothing of hers being yours to accept or decline, she came over, her purse full of codeine and cigarettes and twine. This next poem is a love poem. It's about a relationship that didn't work out. The relationship had its beginnings in a travel together across Italy, and this poem did. This poem, if nothing else, came out of the relationship. It's called Tyrrhenian Sea. Your eyelashes. There's what I know about Anna Capri, and spelling out time in flashes, a lighthouse, and the bright houses drowning down by the sea. We swam, we drank, we passed a bottle on the waves in the dark. In Pompeii that was buried by fire, you ate smoke from my tongue. Your skin, a cinder tree shade. A polyglot boy sold parasols. There were dogs, alive and dead. A three-legged nut turning circles. No omen we knew. In Assisi, where broad and shallow steps cross-cut and veered from street to street, we feared the holy orders. In Tivoli, we leaned on a balustrade. At Frascati, were cooled by a spigot. Why does the tourist mind always linger? It's no good, I know. But you are my eyes' temple, and I've adored you where you stood. This is a less sweet poem for the same person. It's called Independence. We are famous friends, here to get drunk, stoned, here for the fireworks, the night of Independence Day. Ovals spawning Xeroxed ovals across a gassy sky, each boom pursuing its fiery halo. Happy marriage, someone cries. I do. I don't. I might someday. Here's to the stars and bars, to my bed, and you having nowhere else to go. Bring a kiss, not your clothes. To the sky, bright as a bottle shard. To optimism, and all the states, even the boring ones. I know you. The skin graft on your cheek, your lost dog, your can't sleep. I might as well be your own hand. Jesus Christ, take off this ring, keep it off, and put a ring on me. When I give longer readings, I like to mix in some poems that are not by me. I feel that they operate as kind of palate cleansers, and I feel that it's nice to give people in the audience a few voices other than my own. So some of these poems you may recognize, some of them you may not. This one is by E. Cummings. It's Since Feeling is First. Since feeling is first, who pays any attention to the syntax of things will never wholly kiss you. Wholly to be a fool while spring is in the world, my blood approves, and kisses are a better fate than wisdom, lady, I swear by all flowers. Don't cry. The best gesture of my brain is less than your eyelids flutter, which says we are for each other. Then laugh, leaning back in my arms, for life's not a paragraph, and death, I think, is no parenthesis. Is the sound still okay? People in the back, you still hearing me okay? Okay, great. This poem is by Edna St. Vincent Millay, and it's called I Shall Forget You Presently, My Dear. I shall forget you presently, my dear. So make the most of this. Your little day, your little month, your little half a year, ere I forget, or die, or move away, and we are done forever. By and by, I shall forget you, as I said. But now, if you entreat me with your loveliest lie, I will protest you with my favorite vow. I would indeed that love were longer lived, and oaths were not so brittle as they are. But so it is, and nature has contrived to struggle on how to break thus far. Whether or not we find what we are seeking is idle, biologically speaking. After I quit drinking, I found that I had been numb for so long. I'd been numb for so long that I'd forgotten just how vivid the world is. It's not an uncommon experience, from what I understand, when people come out of addictions of one kind or another. It seemed all of a sudden as if everything was much brighter, much louder, much more tactile. It was as if someone had turned up the volume on existence. It was overwhelming at first. So this poem is called Drying Out. Every sharp distinction cut. I'd ride around on the bus. I saw a fire truck under fallen flowers. So much mass under so much nothing. I was rattled by the sign, electric motors and armatures rewound. I'd walk a mile out of my way to not cross a bridge, wearing wool gloves on summer days. When touch-me-nots waved, I felt sick. I was cold in a madrona shadow, shocked by the wetness of a leaf. A shouting in the brain, awake, asleep. I saw a lawn chair reclining in the sun and had to shield my eyes. This poem is called Fatherhood. I am a father. I wrote this poem before I was a father. It was just kind of on the horizon. Fatherhood. Someday, I'd like to have a daughter and give her a stuffy name that she'd hate. She and I could go galumphing out to a pond and net minnows she'd briefly keep alive. A serious, small person. A lover of ribbons and toboggans. Of talking, waistcoat-wearing otters. She and I would rake up every leaf in November. Am I such a sap? Forgive me. Maybe I know more about sons. If I had one, I'd expect him to fling any tenderness back on my plate. To say, you're nudging me into the grave when I'm telling him to live. To not forgive and forget all but the worst of what I say and magnify his victories to win my love. I'll just swing this shut. This poem This next poem is called Swimming Pool. A teapot, a pea coat, a butter boat. Can you prepare for love? The stars hole up in their blue night sleeve and will be your dear companions if you tell them what they are. Afraid of dying, he went for a swim. It was him to swim, no one else there. But never mind. Aqua beetles made merry, and the pines stood. Weed clouds wandered. Float. He did. And the sprung floss of clouds spun darker, and the air shot wet. Unfelt touches set the swimming pool at tilt. Rain, lip to lip, it's inert, but what a lot can do. The pool cried, "Are they done, your days of glass?" A sky, a frown, a sky blue surface pelted down with leaping tin. Let fall, let spring. He wasn't struck by lightning. This next poem is based on the biblical story of Cain and Abel. According to tradition, after Cain murders his brother Abel, he's sent east into Nod. And scholars for a long time tried to figure out where Nod might have been. They assumed that Nod was the name of some long vanished country, and they wanted to identify its location because supposedly it was east of Eden. And if they could figure out where Nod was, they would know where Eden had been as well. And then in the 20th century, with the growing understanding of the Hebrew language, they've come to the conclusion that Nod meant something entirely different. It was not the name of a place, but a word. So this poem is called The Land of Nod. Growing up, I barely knew the Bible, but read and reread the part when Cain drifted east, or was drawn that way, into a place of desolation, the land of Nod. There to begin with a wife of unknown origin, another race of men, under the mark of God. As a boy, I thought Nod would be a place where the blue scillas would bloom gray, a country of the rack and screw, the serrated sword, where the very serving cups were bone. As a grown man, I've heard that Nod never was a nation of Cain's offspring or anyone, but a mistranslation of wander. So Cain could go wherever and be a Nod. Far more than in God, I believe in Cain, who destroyed his own brother, and therefore, in any city, could have his wish and be alone. I'm going to read one more poem from my book, Chimes Against Lightning, and then some newer poems. This last poem from Chimes Against Lightning, I wrote when I was living in Seattle, and it was a bleak time in my life. I wasn't sure that I wanted to go on living, and one day I was out for a walk and got caught in a rainstorm, which really can be a miserable experience in a Seattle winter. I was stuck in a rainstorm feeling very sorry for myself. And someone went by on an ergonomic bicycle. So an ergonomic bicycle, a reclining bicycle, in case there's anyone here who has not had the pleasure of encountering one, is a bicycle that allows the bicyclist to lean back a little bit while elevating his or her feet. And at the time, it seemed outrageous that I could be so unhappy and someone else could just be riding wherever he was going on his ridiculous-looking bicycle. So I wrote this poem about it. It's called distracted by an ergonomic bicycle. On a rainy morning in the worst year of my life, as icy islets shelled the street, I shared a tremor with a Doberman leashed to a post. We two were all the world until a bicyclist shot by, riding like a backward birth, feet first, in level, gentle ease, with the season's hard breath between his teeth. The rain was almost ice, the sky mild and pale. I saw a milk carton bobbing by on a stream of melting sleet. A bicyclist. A bicyclist. He rode away, to his home, I guess. I went home where I undressed, left my jacket where it fell, went straight to bed, and slept for 2 days straight. But those clicking wheels kept clicking in my head. And though I can't say why, I felt not only not myself, but that I'd never been. That I was that man I hardly saw, hurling myself into the blast, and that everything I passed, dog, rain, cold, the other guy, I left in my wake, like afterbirth. This is going to have one more palate cleanser here. This is by Theodore Roethke. It's called I Knew a Woman. I knew a woman, lovely in her bones. When small birds sighed, she would sigh back at them. Ah, when she moved more ways than one. The shapes a bright container can contain. Of her choice virtues, only gods should speak, or English poets who grew up on Greek. I'd have them sing in chorus, cheek to cheek. How well her wishes went. She stroked my chin. She taught me turn and counter-turn and stand. She taught me touch, that undulant white skin. I nibbled meekly from her proffered hand. She was the sickle, poor I, the rake, coming behind her for her pretty sake. But what prodigious mowing we did make. Love likes a gander and adores a goose. Her full lips pursed, the errant note to seize. She played it quick, she played it light and loose. My eyes, they dazzled at her flowing knees. Her several parts could keep a pure repose. Our one hip quiver with a mobile nose. She moved in circles, and those circles moved. Let seed be grass and grass turn into hay. I'm martyr to emotion not my own. What's freedom for? To know eternity. I swear she cast a shadow white as stone. But who would count eternity in days? These old bones live to learn her wanton ways. I measure time by how a body sways. Something that's changed in my life since the publication of Charms Against Lightning is that I'm a dad. So this poem is another poem about fatherhood, but it's a poem from the perspective of actually being a father. And it's based on a book that I'm sure many of you know, which is Margaret Weiss Brown's Goodnight Moon. In case anyone has not read Margaret Weiss Brown's book, it's a lullaby in which the narrator says goodnight to all the things of the world, one after another, including a cow jumping over the moon. So, this poem is called Goodnight Moon. I used to be as unsentimental as anyone could be. Now I'm almost absurd, a clown, carrying you on my shoulders around and around Palmer Square, through the cold night wind, as stores lock up and begin closing down. Good night, fair trade coffee. Good night, Prada shoes. Good night, soon, my little son. You're a toothy, 2-foot-something sumo, a giddy, violent elf, jabbing your finger at the moon, which you've begun noticing in the last week or two. Moom, moom. For you, the word ends with a mumming as it begins. For me, beginnings and endings are getting hard to tell apart. There was another child your mom and I conceived, who'd now be reading and teaching you to read, who we threw away when he or she was smaller than a watermelon seed. The chairs, the domestic bears, the clocks, the socks, the house. Once again, a strange cow springs from the green ground, beginning the enormous leap that will carry her above the moon. This poem is about Frankenstein's monster. At the end of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the monster is on his way to the North Pole to spend all eternity living by himself. In this poem, he's changed his mind and is living in New York, and he's got a job and a house, and he's just trying to reintegrate himself into society. This poem's called Frankenstein's Monster. I'm aging very slowly because every part of me is already dead. I spent years in the Arctic eating seal fat and things better left unnamed. But now I've got money and a condo on the west side. I smell like formaldehyde, my teeth are grimy, my limbs mismatched. But I'm happy in this place where I'm one more person with panache and an ugly face. I eat well. I can walk the bridge Hart Crane walked, or get drunk and not conceal it. I'm not Boris Karloff lurching around, a mute. I hate that guy. I get laid. Here, people suffer without believing that every stranger should have to feel it. The other day I walked from Cleopatra's Needle to the far side of the Harlem Mere, thinking about the Rockefeller Center and the gigantic armillary sphere balanced on the shoulders of the Atlas statue there. My pants are fitted. My beret advances everywhere like a prow. My name isn't Frankenstein. Frankenstein was my inventor. This is a brand new poem. I read it for the first time last night, so this is the second time that it's going to be recited in public. I was worried last night that I would forget a line, and I didn't, so let's hope I don't forget a line today. It's called Renaissance Fair. But not so much the Renaissance as the Middle Ages, and not so much the Middle Ages as the olden times. Baronets and ladies walk the streets of this mock medieval village, mingling with wizards and with burly Viking raiders, who, far from contemplating any murder, rape, or pillage, are standing in a coffee line, sharing a bag of deep-fried pickles. A Morris dance unfolds on one of the smaller outdoor stages as vendors hawk handicrafts of colored glass and crystal. Now come the horses for the joust, hung with colors prancing. Now come the knights, some long of tooth and broad-bottomed in the saddle, but knights anyway, of equal parts, gentleness and power. This is Camelot at its apogee, where chivalry is figured as a flower. The knights spur forward into a theater battle. But Camelot would not be Camelot were it not unsound in some way that no enchantment could ever mend. Alas, for all the pageantry that must eventually stutter to an end, for the Scotch eggs and the crab cakes and the slow roasted mutton shoulder. Alas, for the dads in chainmail pushing their kids uphill in strollers. In a boxy, sloping field doing duty as a parking lot, cars and SUVs are waiting to carry their owners back past gas stations and off-ramps to jobs in Baltimore or DC, or over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge to the pretty little towns that pack the eastern shore. 8 weeks of the year, the Renaissance is here. There's really nothing much for the other 44. Camelot is what you feel nostalgic for, even before it fades. I'm going to recite 2 last poems. Thank you so much for having me and for your attention and your warm welcome. There are copies of Shrines Against Lightning up here for sale. I would be delighted to sign a copy for you if you were interested in having a copy. And I'll close out with these last 2 poems. This first one is called Drone. I am the drone of a banjo's 5th string. I am the drone that gives bottom to the chanter in a highland fling. Haw, hum. I am the drone of drone itself, planted so pleasurably in the mouth. A monotone, a lodestone. I'm an MQ-9, a reaper drone, ranging wide, circling in the sky. No windows, no cockpit, no one on board. See how my hellfires fly faster than sound. I am drone, from the timble under the cicada's wing. I gather no pollen and have no sting. Arriving unheard, I haunt the sky and inseminate the queen before I die. I am a poetry that celebrates power. I bring. The White House is empty. I bomb air. I bomb breath. My country, 'tis of thee I sing. And the last poem is called Talking Song. Now that my work's done and it's Saturday, now that my young son is out somewhere with his mom, I might as well roam all morning, spying on the filthy squirrels and on the shapes that disintegrating leaves have painted on the sidewalk. I might as well spend the morning talking to myself, hoping for meaning and unmeaning to braid and begin teaching me what to say. Some days I feel like a monarch at wing, meandering, not really deciding where I go, as programmed as the dim-wit birds building nests of twigs and spit. Each bird pipes the song that it was taught and transmits the song to its own offspring. Earthworms driven up by last night's rain have squirmed onto the asphalt to slowly die. I save some who glue and wriggle, but most I leave to fry. There's fatherhood in a grain. What love you have gets distilled into your own kin, your own kid, an 8-toothed homunculus, clutching an acorn in his fist, bewildered that a paper plate set down on the grass on a windy day won't stay put, but lofts and spins away. By the time I'm downtown, I'm turning back, in thought, if not yet with my feet. Before I'm back on my own street, I'll have twice walked by the little wedge of ground where people of this neighborhood bury their dead dogs and cats. A rawhide bone, a ball of yarn, waterlogged by the frowsy rain. Animals have never meant very much to me, but I've got them on the brain these days. How magnetic navigation brings spawning salmon home. How predation, variation, and the winnowing down of things gave shape to a world of species, giving them gills, wings, and feet. But I'd rather be dead than be a creature of any other kind. I walk upright, practicing the song of my species by speaking. Thank you.